And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday mornings, flying weather about the same as what we've seen. Good VFR from the Arctic coast right on down into Prince William Sound, Cook Inlet, southern Cook Inlet, picking up some marginal VFR that becomes IFR across the Barren Islands, Kodiak Island, IFR, and some IFR along the southeast coast. Out to the west, areas of IFR here over the northern and southwestern Bering Sea, and as far east as possibly Atka Island with marginal VFR right into the southwest coast. And for the afternoon, areas of marginal VFR possible there for the Arctic coast, otherwise the North Slope all the way down into Cook Inlet and Prince William Sound, VFR all the way into Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, a little bit of marginal VFR, say around Shishmaref, area of IFR over the northern Bering Sea, IFR off to the southwest, and we've got IFR from Atka to the Komodorskis, marginal VFR to the west here, Alaska Peninsula, IFR still along the east side of Kodiak Island, and in across the Gulf, but right along or just off the southeast coast there, pretty good conditions over the inside waters. And then for Friday morning, IFR over the southern panhandle here with marginal VFR elsewhere, all the way up to the North Gulf Coast. Now marginal VFR into Prince William Sound, Resurrection Bay, southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay areas. And for the east side of Kodiak Island, still IFR. Interior, good VFR, all the way up to the Arctic coast. And the Bering Sea, marginal VFR with a big area of IFR here along the Aleutians, another area up to the north, and yet another area farther out to the west. And for the afternoon, we've got a band of IFR here from St. Lawrence Island down across the Pribilofs into Atka Island over toward the Fox Islands, so you're the front out in that area. Otherwise, no change over the interior, good VFR. And for Kodiak Island, marginal VFR. Marginal VFR, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, and in over the northern panhandle with a pretty good area of VFR over the southeast coastal area, especially on the inside waters or down to the south. And for passes, Anaktuvik and Adigan, both VFR again for the day on Thursday. Western Alaska Range open all the way around. Lake Clark, Merrill, rainy, VFR windy. Isabel and Mentasta, Tanita, VFR. Portage, VFR, Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels here, 10,000 feet, central and eastern part of the state into the Yukon, down to the North Gulf Coast. And a big area of cooler air out here with that slowly northward drifting low pressure area, about 4,000 feet there. Central eastern Bering Sea, back to about 6,000 to 8,000 feet over the Aleutians. Icing, look for considerable moderate rime icing here right along the southwest coast, Nunivak Island and the Pribilofs. And then another band here just along and south of the central and western Aleutians. Otherwise, nothing of any significance anywhere else around the state. And from there, looking at the jet stream, 33,000 foot winds and a big swirl here actually through the depth of the atmosphere here right out over the Bering Sea, slowly shifting northward with 75 to 85 knot winds around that feature. Lighter over the interior and down the southeast coast. 65 knots out of the northwest for the Queen Charlotte Islands. And at, let's see, 9,000 feet, light over the interior down across the Panhandle in the Gulf of Alaska. And again, this large low over the Bering Sea, westerlies 45 to 55 knots there, just north of the Aleutians, turns southerly at 50 knots across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coastal areas and Nunivak Island, dropping back to about 40 knots there for the Bering Strait. 9,000 feet, same pattern here, big low out over the Bering Sea. Westerlies 40 knots on the southern quadrant of that. Southerlies at about 30 knots to southeast 40 knots there. Along the Yukon Delta coast towards St. Lawrence Island, light over the interior. And from there, turbulence, of course, all out to the west here. Moderate turbulence, Atka Island into the Alaska Peninsula, as well as the mostly the Kuskokwim Delta there, and St. Lawrence Island as well. Pretty smooth elsewhere, nothing of any significance from the Arctic coast down across the Panhandle.